Good evening, family. I hope that you all are doing quite well today. I've got a lot of stuff to cover pretty quickly. I'm going to try to do it in 15 minutes or less. As you can see, I thought that I was going to be spending a quiet evening tonight. But somebody let 45 out of his hole in his bunker, and he started talking reckless. And so I want to make sure that you guys are not in a state of fear, and that you know specifically what you need to know with regards to dealing with a commander-in-chief who is crazy. So we'll talk a little bit about how to deal with President Trump and what he just put out, and go from there. And again, I thought I was going to be washing my hair tonight, hence this. But then he started running his mouth. So I want to let you guys know a couple of things pretty quickly, okay? So here's the long and the short of it. One, I want to first say that if you are having a hard time processing everything and you're feeling overwhelmed, that is very natural. It is not unexpected. Please take the time to anchor yourself in whatever way that you do that, whether it's prayer, taking a walk in the park before curfew, or just reading something, turning off the TV for a little while, turning off social media, whatever you have to do to center yourself. I want to encourage you to center yourself. And then after you're centered, I don't want you to go into la la land. I want you to come back because we still need some action after you've centered yourself. But make sure that you center yourself overall. So let's talk a little bit about the Insurrection Act and a couple of dog whistles that were done today by our president. I want to make sure that you understand what that means, what he can and what he can't do, and go from there. And again, I'm talking very flat tonight because, again, I thought I was going to be taming this wild hair of mine and going to sleep, and then 45 started running his mouth. All right, so let's kind of get into this pretty quickly. So when we talk about context, one of the things that I find very interesting is that we've got a president who refused to invoke the Defense Protection Act for COVID-19 to save people's lives, but he is now trying to invoke the Insurrection Act that has not been used in quite some time. So a couple of things that you should know. When I was talking earlier and people thought, Yolanda, you're telling people to behave well, and I want to express this now audibly since I typed it. I understand the anger. I understand the rage. I get it. The reason why I was encouraging us to use a strategy that was long-term, it is not just because we have to put on a certain act for certain individuals, but I need us to remember that we're dealing with a madman in our White House. We're dealing with a madman in our White House. And because we're dealing with someone who does not have good sense and has access and authority as commander-in-chief to do some crazy stuff, it is very important that we continue to act strategically because we don't have a sane adult running things from the center, okay? So when you hear me say things, it's because in the back of my mind, I know that we're dealing with someone who has cognitive distortions and delusions of grandeur running our country. And so it's important that whatever tactics and strategies that we have in place, that we keep in mind that we have a child at the head of the wheel, so to speak, in the United States, okay? And so it's important that whatever you do, you know your rights, that you act in a way that's strategic. You play the long game and channel and harness that anger. But keep in mind, we've got we've got somebody that's not in his right mind at the helm. So a couple of things that you should know with regards to this act. I don't need you to be in a state of fear. I need you to be aware, though, of why it's so important that you vote at a local and a governmental level. So the Insurrection Act that Donald Trump is saying that he wants to invoke is something that cannot be done by him constitutionally. He cannot use active military troops to storm cities to be used to keep law and order. However, while it's unconstitutional for him to act unilaterally to do that, if your governor, if your mayor decides that they cannot keep the peace with the use of local law enforcement and the National Guard, your governor can make the decision to call up Donald on the hotline and ask him to bring in active military personnel. This is much different than the National Guard, people of God. National Guard is trained for disasters, emergency, peacekeeping. That's what they're known for. Active military is brought in for a whole nother reason, and it's to act with force. And so I don't want you to be confused when you hear people say, well, he doesn't have the right to do it. He does not. He does not have the ability with enforcing this act to act unilaterally. Hear me. With the Insurrection Act, the president does not have the ability to act unilaterally. What that means in layman terms, he can't make that decision on his own. However, if your governor in your state that some of us didn't go out to vote for decides that they cannot keep the peace with local law enforcement, with state law enforcement, or with National Guard, they can call up the hotline to President Trump and say, I want active military personnel. Let me tell you the last time this is used, because a lot of people are going to start looking up things on Google. And again, they're overnight history buffs, and they just started researching this. And I don't know everything, but it's important that you know some things. The military can come in at the request of the state, so your governor. So if you've got a governor in place that does not act in the best interest of the people and is not a sympathizer to the cause that we have, and is only concerned about a minor group of people that are doing these acts and want to shut down all protests, your governor can't call the president, and they can work in conjunction to bring in the active military under this act. Another thing is that when you've seen this happen is in instances, because this has been used recently. When I say recently, this is why I was on here hollering about don't go out there acting like baboons, okay? Because the last time this was used, people of God, I'll give you three references recently. The first one was when we had little kids that were supposed to be integrated into schools in Little Rock. Y'all remember that? And the state decided we didn't want to do it. And the local area decided they didn't want to do it. Congress was able to give the president at that time authority to bring in the active military to make sure that that little girl that was part of the Little Rock Nine was able to get into school. So Congress can give the president authority to do that. Another time that we saw this used was right after the riots, after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. So, quick history lesson. This is not the first time we've been mad. This is not the first time that our anger has led us to a point of tearing stuff up. This is not the first time, people of God. And this is why history is important. Those that know their history can effectively fight for their future. Those that know their history can effectively fight for their future. So again, the Insurrection Act was used after the riots and fires after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. because individuals decided that they were so angry that they wanted to tear stuff up. Thank you. My sister is saying the words that I don't want to say. The next time that they used it, at the request of a mayor, because again, a mayor can call, a governor can call, is when stuff got real tricky after Rodney King. And they used it because people were so angry that they decided, I want to riot. So I want to be very clear with y'all as y'all are because I'm going to be very short tonight. As you guys are thinking about how you want to approach things, again, do not let the government fool you. We are playing chess. I don't know how many more times I got to say this. We are playing chess and we are not playing checkers. We are playing chess and we are not playing checkers. Connect the dots, people. This ain't even hard. I mean, Scooby-Doo would have figured out what's going on by now. Him and Velma and the rest of the crew. It's very clear what's happening, okay? You've got a pandemic where people are already locked down. During said pandemic, while nobody was thinking about it, the Department of Justice decides to, in the dark of night, send over proposed legislation before the Supreme Court to take away people's Miranda rights so that they don't have to go before a judge or a trial very speedily. Okay? Nobody knew about that, but a source leaked it from the Department of Justice to a source at Politico. You got that. And what they put was not just for COVID, but also for civil protests. Not even a month and a half later of that legislation trying to be passed, or that ordinance trying to be passed under the dark of night with the Supreme Court, you've got continued police brutality, which people know human behavior is that we're going to get fed up at some point. And after that happens, there are protests. Part of the insiders in some of the protests, because we've got people that are amongst us that don't realize that there is a machine behind some of this, that instigators join our peaceful protests. Come on. I mean, Scooby-Doo can figure this out, y'all. A cartoon dog can figure this out. After the insiders do looting and rioting that detracts from the narrative of the justice that we want, it gives the president cause to enact something that he wanted all along, which was the excessive force of the military, because he is the commander in chief and he is the president of martial law, to come on the scene, to put martial law into place. Now all of your places have a curfew. Now all of the same industries and places that employ the people that need to actually work, we now have a combination of unemployment. We've now got a combination of public health crisis. We've also got now a combination of social ills, which was already there, and they now put y'all back on lockdown again. Not because you're wrong to be angry. I had one person say, I've sinned for a whole lot less. And they're right. I heard people say that they understand, and I understand, and you're right. I've heard people say, don't tell me how to protest, and you're right. I've heard and watched people pit Martin against Malcolm and make Martin seem like he was this docile creature and we're wrong for loving him. And they make Malcolm seem like this creature that just tore everything up, which he didn't. I watched people write about how they're not our ancestors. And excuse my French, I started to cuss. You're daggone right, you're not our ancestors. You don't have the testicular fortitude to deal with what our ancestors dealt with. Because what people don't realize, that the biggest form of protest is survival. When somebody is trying to exterminate you, your biggest form of protest is the fact that you're looking at them every day. It is survival. And so I'm not here to condemn anybody for how they're protesting. I'm not here to say that I don't understand your anger. I'm not here to say I don't understand the fact that you want to tear up everything. I'm not here to say that I don't understand that you want to burn everything down. Because if it was left up to me, I would stick a match to the whole country and just go on with it, okay? If I went by how I felt. But I need you to understand that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. And I'm not saying that to be spiritual. I'm telling you that you're dealing with a very strategic enemy. And if you don't do anything during this time, because thankfully we now have a curfew, so at 7 o'clock for some and 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock for others, you'll have plenty of reading time. I need you to read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. If you really are trying to stick it to the man, if you really are trying to stick it to the system, you got to be smart and realize that the best way to beat your enemy is to study them and outsmart them on their own tactics. You are playing into the hand of a tyrant. Donald Trump is many things, and we can say that he is psychologically deranged, and he is. We can say that the man is a joke, and he is. But one thing he is not, he is a face for a system that is very smart. And when you do the things that they expect you to do because you have no restraint and control of your emotions, it allows them to make the next move on a chessboard. And some of y'all are so busy playing dominoes, spades, checkers, and whatever other crap you learn at your backyard barbecue that you don't know the system well enough to know that your behavior just gave them the alley-oop that they wanted to enact martial law. Let me tell you why this is so important. I'm going to bring my tone back down. The reason why this is so important, y'all, I really feel like sometimes the mind of our people is ate up. And I need us to read a book. There are 2 times that voting does not have to take place in the United States. Fact check me. There are 2 times that voting does not have to take place in the United States. Natural disasters, and during a state of emergency and war. I'm closing my book as I come to my close tonight. Natural disasters, a state of emergency, and war. Your president just declared a national emergency. He was slow to declare it for COVID, which was a global pandemic. But he just called it very quickly for you all, related to protest activities. And to show his quote unquote strength, this individual decided that he was going to interrupt peaceful protesters to prove a point to those that are quote unquote disruptors. So I need you to understand, we're playing chess. He wants to be a wartime president. And the reason why he wants to be a wartime president, because his desire is to remain president for another 4 years. And if we don't get some control over our strategy and some control over our emotions and use the weapons that we have, go read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. If you don't get your mind together and outwit your opponent, you're always going to be 5 steps behind. If you don't get your head in a book and allow your emotions to be tempered by knowledge, your opponent is going to outsmart you every time. And I'll say it again. Survival is the biggest act of protest. I didn't say shrinking back and being a doormat. But survival and outwitting your opponent is your biggest tactic in a war. Okay? And I'm not saying that we don't need a few people to cause a distraction over here while we do this over here. But that's what they're doing with us. They're getting you distracted on one thing and they're letting you act in a certain way. He could have shut this down the whole time, but he's sending a message. The other dog whistle, and then I'm going to go. For those getting on late, go back and watch the replay because you need all of this. Please note that your president made a nod, because you got to watch every word when you're playing chess. Your president made a nod to defending Second Amendment rights. What does that mean for you, for us? What does that mean for you all? What it means is is he is doing another dog whistle to say, hey guys, your Second Amendment right is the right to bear arms. Your Second Amendment right, if you don't know it. Let me read this real quick because some of y'all don't read. So let me just go ahead and read you the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So let me give you the Cliff Notes version. One of the reasons why he made a nod to the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment is not just about you being able to buy a gun. It was put in place by the founding fathers with our Constitution because it was saying that if at any time we ever need to defend our country against threats, both foreign and domestic, if we need to defend ourselves against threats, both foreign and domestic, it is the right of the people to take up arms. So what does that mean when he says that? Y'all think this man is stupid, but he ain't as dumb as him and his orange toupee looks. When he makes a nod to that act and he says we're going to defend everything, even our Second Amendment right, that is a dog whistle for those that understand the law, that understand the Constitution more than what some of us do that hick-a-shine all day. It is a nod to say, guess what? Guys, I'm considering these protesters a threat to us domestically. And if you have to defend yourself, racist, if you have to defend yourself, arm bearer, do whatever it takes, because that's part of your Second Amendment right. We'll use that. Because if you're trying to ward off a protester that I'm going to call a rioter, a looter, a thug, or whatever, I'm giving you a hint. Because I've got good counsel around me, more than some of these people that are doing all these acts, that you can defend yourself and say, you know what? Hey, it got so out of control. They were just so busy yelling and screaming and fussing and tearing up the place. We use our Second Amendment right, which is the right to a well-regulated militia, that we can protect ourselves with our own arms that we bear to protect ourselves against threats, both foreign and domestic. They're considering you a domestic threat. So for those of you that had the unmitigated gall to be arguing on social media about a tactic and not listening, let me tell you, the Bible says, go argue with the Lord. The Bible says that safety is found in the multitude of counsel. A lot of y'all had all of this anger, but you could not get a strategy because your ears are untuned and is unskilled towards wisdom. And now you have played into the hands of your enemy. I need you to know your oppressor is not sitting here thinking of something that is new. He is doing something that has been done for years and centuries and decades and centuries over nation, over nation, over nation, over nation. Your oppressor has gone to country after country after country. The people who wrote our Constitution were racists and bigots. And they knew that a time was going to come that there were going to be threats, not just from other countries, but there could be a threat internally. And because you play so much checkers and not chess, and because your ears are so full of hate, and because your ears are so full of lawfulness, and because your ears are so unattuned to wisdom, you could not hear the wisdom of your ancestors. You could not hear the wisdom of others. And I don't give a nickel's worth of dog meat. You can go and do 400 posts. You can say that you want to cuss. You can say that you want to fuss. You can say that you don't want to hear this. But hear me. When you don't listen to wisdom, you give an alley-oop to the enemy. And guess what, people? When you don't use restraint, it is not weakness. Restraint is given to those that are going to win battles. Restraint is given to those that are going to win wars. And if you want to win this war, I'm sorry to tell you, go read a real book about Martin, not just the one that your elementary school geography teacher and history teacher gave you. He wasn't nonviolent because he ain't had it in him to tear stuff up. There was a reason why that man was on the CIA list. There was a reason why that man was on the FBI's most wanted list, because he had enough wisdom to say, if I use restraint, I cannot let them to continue the narrative or try to paint me as someone that they can use what our president just tried to use, which is calling people to arms to say, go ahead and use your Second Amendment right. So check your facts. Check me. Check your facts. I want you to know, every time we had this level of outrage, after we lost our national, I saw this video. And in the video, it had a man that was in his 40s fussing and yelling about we still here. And you had another guy that was around my age in his 30s. And you had a 16-year-old. Let me tell you why we're still here. It's because after Martin Luther King died and everybody was rioting, and they came in and shut stuff down. Let me tell you the next thing that they did. They built highways in our neighborhoods. So when you go to certain parts of the black part of town, there's a reason why. Check the freaking history books. There's a reason why there is a federal road or a state road always running through that divides the black side of town from the rest side of town. And you know why? There is no secret. They said during slavery times, if you want to hide anything from a Negro, put it in a book. The way that we're geographically set up in our neighborhoods and in our zip codes, they put highways in there because they knew there was a time that if we ever acted up again like how we acted up in the civil rights, go check me. You can fact check me. I know what I'm talking about. There was already planned from a city planning perspective, from a state planning perspective, and from a national perspective that if the Negroes ever got organized again, we needed to make sure that we've got roads and highways that section their parts of town off so that we can bring in the National Guard, so that we can bring in the militia, so that we can bring in the military. And guess what? You all fight for the people. Nobody can't tell me nothing. Don't tell me how to express my rage. Don't want to listen to wisdom folks did. You've given them access. And what do you have to show for it? The officers still ain't locked up. And again, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to say that I don't understand. I just said a few minutes ago, if it was up to me, burn, baby, burn. But I also know, hey, I cannot play the short game with these ninjas because they're always playing the long game with us and they're expecting us to play the short game. So again, congratulations for those that think you won another victory. You have given Donald Trump what he wants because as this continues, he now gets to work with his racist governors in states around the South that have the biggest percentage of blacks. So that now that even those that are peacefully protesting, if they go out there, they could be met with even more violence. So again, he does not have the unilateral ability to call in those forces, but he can use your mayors. He can use your governors. And I hear me, state of Georgia, because my soror is your mayor. Don't make it hard for her, or I'm going to be personally offended. Because here's the thing about it. When you act up, hear me, Atlanta, when you act up, you put her in a position where she can't even be the advocate that I know as my sorority sister she is for you. And when you don't act the way that you're supposed to act, and I don't care what you say, get off of here if you don't want to hear it, because I'm going to give you wisdom. When you put her in that position, when you put people that are like you in that position that have the ability to influence, what happens is the governor now can override her because it makes her look like she can't get the city under control. And they are looking for a reason to usurp her authority. They're looking for a reason. The governor's sitting over there, he's waiting. The governor's like, I'm ready to make sure Keisha's not successful. Ready. It's not a call from the mayor. It's a call from the governor. So if the governor decides that I feel like this ain't safe and Keisha's not doing it, he can pull a Trump card and call Donald Trump and say, you know what, go ahead and bring the active military in here. So I need y'all to be, and again, hear me. I'm not telling you not to be mad. I'm not telling you, and for those of you, let me go ahead and throw this out here. I'll give you this for free. If you're going to try to insult someone by using certain terms, don't call him an Uncle Tom, because those that actually read a book know that Uncle Tom is the hero. The person that you're referencing is Sambo. So if you're going to try to throw a slur at somebody, please be educated when you do that, because I find it idiotic when you call people Uncle Toms. And for those of us that actually read, he was the hero in the story. I'm not telling you to be a Sambo. I'm not telling you to not express yourself. I'm not telling you not to be mad. I'm not telling you not to be angry. I'm not telling you to sit in your prayer closet and pray all day. What I am telling you is to play chess and not checkers. So what can you do now that you're sitting at home under your curfew? Okay? What you can do is I need y'all to share this. This is not about me getting a lot of likes. This is not about a lot of people knowing me. I am here to give strategy because I am burdened about this. What you can do, all of you, because somebody was like, well, Yolanda, if we ain't supposed to tear stuff up, what I'm supposed to do? Glad you asked, okay? I'm always here to give strategies, okay? What you need to do immediately, call your state representative and call your senators. If your pastor or pastors are asking what they can do, yes, we need to vote in November. We're going to do that. But I don't have time to wait. Hear me. I don't have time to wait. I need you to tell your pastors. I need you to tell your bishops. I need you to tell your superintendents. I need you to tell everybody, your mama, your cousin, and them. Everybody, your white allies, when they're asking what they can do, I need you to call your state representative and call your state senator. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to specifically ask, and I'll put it on my page so that you have the language, since you ain't even got to figure out how to write it. Share this, people. Tell your friends. When you put this in the post, when you share, don't just share my face and me looking toe up and busted and just ranting about foolishness. I want you to share. Go listen at minute number so-and-so. Take them exactly to where they need to go. They should listen to the whole thing, but I want you to hear me. This is a strategy I got. I'm supposed to be in prayer right now, but I felt the burden of the Lord to share this with y'all. When they call their state representative in DC, when they call Congress and your state senator, what you're going to do is demand that Congress invokes the 25th Amendment. The reason why, and you got to do it now. Get your pastors in here. Hear me. I mean, right now. You need to share this with your pastor. Get your pastor in here. Get your bishop in here. I'm giving y'all free strategy. They ain't got to go search into the deep in the abyss. Hallelujah. I'm giving them, get them in here. What you're going to do is you're going to call your state representatives that are in Congress. You're going to call your state senators. I need you to get all of them on the phone, and you got to do it right now, because what our president just did is he threw tear gas. He threw tear gas. And he got the federal forces to spray rubber bullets at a peaceful protest. And this is on CNN. There was no rioting and no looting. What you're going to do is say, because he did that, I demand that Congress enact the 25th Amendment to do a sobriety and a physical and mental health checkup on our president. I need your pastor. So some of y'all pastors are asking, what can I do? I really want to be helpful. I'm just telling you what you can do. All 300 in your coalition need to call now, not tomorrow, not 3 days from now, not after you had a 50-day fast and pray and wail session, not after 600 Facebook lives, dead all that. Because some of y'all only want attention. Now there ain't no real heat in the streets. I'll deal with y'all later on in the week. But what you can do right this moment, you got to do it while it's still hot. You got to do it while it's still hot. I need you to call. Have every member do a call-a-thon, do a telethon. It need to look like lights are going off of there. I need everybody. Whether you're part of the NAACP, whether you are part of the National Action Network, which I am, whether you are part of the Urban League, whether you are part of Black Lives Matter, you need to call. Thank you, Eddie. Write it in the comments. You need to call pastors. You need to get your church members to call tonight and tomorrow. Find out the name of their state representatives. If you are a pastor and you got an administrator and you're wondering what your administrator can do, get your administrator at your church. Get your friend that is nosy. Y'all know women. Some of us are like the FBI. We can find stuff real quick. You find out Find out. I'll do that, Angelise. I'll do a video, just that part. You find out who your representative is, who your congressperson is, and you say to them, I want to demand, based on the acts of Donald Trump in the Rose Garden on June 1st, disrupting a peaceful protest, that you demand that the 25th Amendment is invoked, and that they do a sobriety test. Because what that's going to do is Mama Nancy is waiting for a reason to impeach this man. When I say waiting, she's waiting. Okay? They could not get him on that other stuff. But if your white allies are asking, what can I do? If your Asian allies are asking, what can I do? If you're asking as a black person, I'm angry, what can I do? I want you to be like a woman or a man that is calling a lover that they can't get through to, and they keep calling over and over and over and over again to email. What you need to do is call Congress tonight, tomorrow, email them, find out your representative, bombard them and say, I want to invoke and demand that Congress invoke the 25th Amendment to do a mental check on our president. That man needs to get out of there, and he needs to get out of there quick. So I say all that to say this. I think I'm doing pretty decent on time tonight. He cannot use the Insurrection Act unilaterally. Uni means one, by himself. But if your governor calls, because it feels like it's a threat, watch his language. His language was specifically saying that I'm going to defend the country and protect your Second Amendment right. That is the right to bear arms. It is not just about buying a gun. It's also having a well-regulated militia. And the reason why the Second Amendment was created, people of God, is because at that time, America was such a young and fragile country. They wanted all of its citizens to have arms because they were in fear that England was going to try to come, or another country try to come and take back over. And what these jokers do, because they're playing chess, while some of us are playing checkers, when he says, I'm going to protect your right under the Second Amendment, he's giving a dog whistle to those that have guns to say, if you feel like you have to protect the United States against a threat that is foreign or domestic, he's considering what's happening a domestic threat. And so what he's doing is he's giving a dog whistle to those that know to say, if you got to protect your property and if you got to protect your stuff, shoot them on sight. He can't say that directly, but I'm telling you what he's saying to them. You gotta hear in between. You gotta hear in between what they're saying. You gotta hear what they're not saying. So again, if you're a pastor, if you are whoever, and you're like, what can I do? I'm telling you what you can do. Don't wait till July 7th for a blackout. We need to do that. Don't wait till any of this other stuff. We can do that. I don't need you to just vote in November. I need you to share this video. I will try to condense down just to that part where I gave action. But heck, at this point, part of our problem is we don't want to listen to nothing. And we just want it quick. But again, if you're asking what you can do, you do not have to spend 40 days and 40 nights tarrying for the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost endues you with power. And you can play chess. What you have to do tonight and what you have to do tomorrow is, because this man threw tear gas, he already has ticked off the church. I think it's St. James that he was standing in front of. He's already ticked that lady off that runs the church, because he's used the church in a defamed way. But because he's now made a wrong move, this is what I love about my Jesus. Because some of us did not listen to wisdom and we made an unwise move and a premature move. This is the reason why I have now context why the Lord told Gideon, cut your army down to 300. It's not that everybody wasn't willing. Everybody wasn't disciplined for the battle. And so even though some of us made a misstep out of an emotional place, God is so sovereign that he'll turn the tables back in our favor. And so what I need you to do, because our president is who he is, I need you to go ahead and call the people that you need to call tonight and tomorrow and demand that, because of his behavior towards peaceful protesters, even though they were standing on federal land, yes, But because of his behavior and because of his speech on today, that you demand that they enact the 25th Amendment and check his mental sobriety. I need y'all to go ahead and do that. Share that with the pastor. Share that with someone that's an influencer. Again, I'm going to do whatever I can from the small seat that God has given me to try to give y'all what I hear in prayer, to give you the information that I know. But then it's up to all of us collectively. This is not about anybody getting glory but God. The Bible says that justice roll down like waters. I feel myself. It's time for me to go into prayer. But I need y'all to have discipline. The Lord has given us another window. And I admonish y'all that have gotten so emotionally hyped. I don't want to see it no more. Hear me. I don't want to see it no more. Stop using Martin against Malcolm. Both of them were necessary. Read about Malcolm for real. Not just the fact that you heard that he was about violence. No. Read about Malcolm again. He was very strategic. One of the biggest things they did and they feared him is not because he went down to the police precinct and he burned stuff up. He went down there with some guns now, don't get me wrong. But when he went down there, old boy was like, if you don't do what I'm asking, there's going to be smoke in the city. And he didn't have to tear nothing up because his very presence and the people that he brought with them let people know, you know what, this man ain't playing game. If you want some more strategy, read a book. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. You got to know your enemy better than they know themselves. And you got to outsmart them. They want us to play into, and some people ain't going to like this. I don't really care at this point. They want us to make certain moves because, again, it's going to help them delay an election, and it's also going to keep Donald Trump in office for 4 more years. And it also is a dog whistle to be able to use the Second Amendment as an excuse, because now they can say that we are a threat domestically, even if we're protesting peacefully. So again, I need you to call on tonight. If you're a pastor, here's a quick way you can mobilize your team. You thank the Lord. You ain't got to ask no more. What can you do? What you do is you get your church, get everybody tonight. Talk to your people. Come on now. Praise the Lord. Talk to your people. Yes, Angelique, both parties. Let me tell y'all this. Both parties. We don't have allegiance to the Democrats, and I sure as enough don't have no allegiance to the Republican. I have no allegiance to any political party. I have allegiance to the party that meets my demands as an individual and that meets the needs of me as an African American woman. And whoever does that the best, that's the person that I'll back. And the moment that they don't do what I ask them to do, I'll change my vote just as much as I change my undergarments. So yes, that's a long way to say call them on both sides. We got to get out that mindset. Democrats ain't loving us either, if the truth be told. That don't give you an excuse not to vote. So if I hear you in that ignorance in my comments about I ain't voting, you're part of the issue, and I will be having a family meeting with you offline in your DMs. Don't do that either. I ain't got time for that. My grandmother and them ain't marched for you not to vote. People ain't die. And let me help y'all with this too. People that have the audacity to say our forerunners did nothing for us because we're still here. Are you ignorant? Are you well? Is your mind ate all the way up? They did do something for us. Half the rights that you have now, Jim Crow laws being abolished, half of the things that you take as a common thing is because of them. So don't be telling and don't be spreading that demonic philosophy that they ain't do nothing for us. Are you well? Are you well? I hope the ancestors come out and slap you. Be sane in your mind. Be sane in your mind. Don't ever let them push you to a point where you desecrate your own history. No, sir. No, ma'am. Okay? So make sure y'all do that. Voting is coming up. I'm seeing people put in the comments. Early voting in Georgia ends Friday, June the 5th. There is a Democratic primary. But again, right now, right this minute, you need to make sure your pastor knows, your bishop knows, your church administrator knows. You go look it up. I just gave you a strategy that we need to implement in the next 24 to 48 hours. There's more things coming more formally that I'll be giving you guys because we are going to be moving and we're not going to be doing it in a silo. We're going to be doing it together and working with other organizations that exist. But it's time for us to get to work. But again, call Congress and say that you demand that the 25th Amendment is invoked because of the actions of Donald Trump, his words in the Rose Garden, and his excessive use of force against peaceful protesters. And if they ask you, how do you have that knowledge? I saw it. Tell your allies that's what they can do. I love all of you with the love of the Lord. Let me, before I go, are there any questions? Are all hearts and minds very, very clear? Again, share this with a friend. Make sure they watch. I don't care if you tell them, hey, y'all, fast forward to minute number such and such. Make it easy for people to get this content. I know I talk about a variety of stuff, but I want them to get action. But again, I don't want you to just give them action without any context, because that is also not wisdom either. Just to be like, boom, I'm ready to go act, but I don't have context. You got to know what to say. The amendment, Maurice, is the 25th amendment. Let me double check myself. It's the 25th amendment. Yeah, 25th. Yeah. You can't get him for his tweets. That's the thing, because he has the right to free speech. But you can get him on his behavior. And you can tell him to give him a mental health check. Call. Just call. Yolanda, I don't know who my rep is. How do I find out? Let me tell you. After the Holy Ghost, Google Eddie is a powerful thing. So if you type in your zip code, and I'm not saying that to be funny, so please don't take that as me trying to be shady, because I'm not. If you type in, because I don't know it here in Alabama, if you type in your zip code and you type in state representative, a list is going to come up, and that'll give you what you need to know. But what I'm going to charge, Eddie, can you put in the comments? I'll do this for you, Eddie, because Eddie, you've been so good about stuff. Eddie, if you put in the comments what particular zip code you're in, I'll find out your state representative. Now, I'm not doing that for everybody else, but I am going to do that for Eddie, because Eddie asked the question, and he was bold enough to ask the question because he didn't know. And some of us need to ask more questions before we go out half-cocked. So, Eddie, put your zip in the comments, or either DM me, and then I will let you know who your state senator is, your state rep is, and then also your congressman. Some people are putting the link in the comments below. So I love y'all. I hope that this is helpful. My bestie is in, y'all. My bestie is in here. She's my Malcolm, and I'm her Martin. Jamaica, I love you. I love you. I love you. Renita, I love you, my sister. I love all of y'all. Y'all continue to fight the fight. We'll do a health check tomorrow. I wanted to do something light tonight, which is why I ain't yelling as much. But tomorrow we're going to do a health check. I want to know throughout the day how you're doing. We cannot have these feelings bottled up. Anything that's bottled up is going to manifest in your body. And so I want to make sure that you guys are doing well, not just in the fight of activism, but also in your mental and emotional state. So we'll do that on tomorrow. I'll post stuff throughout the day. I am an HR practitioner at the end of the day. I know they're not talking about it at your job. I know it's tough while you're at work, and you probably want to turn some tables over at work. I wanted to do that today. I really wanted to be like Martin up in that boardroom and flip a table over and do some other things. But I can't. But I want to provide a space for you guys to really say, this is how I feel at work. Or, Yolanda, somebody said something to me at work, and how do I handle it? I want to be able to answer those questions so that you're not dealing with nonsense outside of work and then nonsense when you get in work, okay? All right, love y'all. Have a good night. See y'all next time. Bye.